A very good afternoon. Welcome to our English Vendée Globe Live. It's 13:30 here in Les Sables d'Olonne, 12:30 in London. This afternoon or this evening we'll see Charlie Dallin, the race leader, crossing the longitude of the Cape of Good Hope. He's got about 160 miles to go at the moment he has a solid lead. He's going to get into some difficult weather and sea conditions, but he's going well. Now, the news is just in this morning from Alex Thompson. He sent us a video which really encapsulates his emotions at the moment as he heads for Cape Town with his damaged HUGO BOSS.
Hello everybody. Well, it's taken me a few days to digest what's happened, gather my thoughts before I felt able to speak to you. I'm normally a very positive person, but if I'm honest right now, I feel pretty broken. You know, for the best part of 20 years, this race has been my goal. You know, we've come so close before, and this time I really thought it was possible. I have the boat of my dreams. We've put together a campaign I'm extremely proud of, and despite the setbacks of the last week, I still thought it was possible to win, or at the very least finish. I've given my life to this sport, and it's a very difficult pill to swallow. So many people have supported me along the way, and I can tell you, picking up the telephone to deliver the news, well, it's just heartbreaking. This sport, this race is just so tough. Things could change so quickly, but that's the beauty of it, and it's so challenging, and that's why I've given a large part of my life to it. The messages of support from the fans have been incredible. I really don't feel worthy, but also from the other skippers and the teams, your words have really touched me. I sincerely hope you all make it safely to the finish. But for now, I need to concentrate on taking this beautiful boat home, getting out of Cape Town safely, and there I'll officially retire from the race. And the last thing I need to say is to say thank you to everybody who supported me. To my team, thank you for your dedication and your hard work. I know you couldn't have done more. But thank you also to our partners. You've worked tirelessly with us, and you've shown such dedication, such loyalty, and I can't thank you enough. I couldn't quite make history this time round, but I can tell you, I gave it everything I got.
I don't think anybody can deny that of Alex Thompson, that he always gives 110%, and we can of course understand his emotions at the moment and pass on our good wishes to him and to his team, and we hope we'll see him back on the water very soon. We're joined by Simon Fisher of the 11th Hour racing team. Simon is a 6 times Volvo racer, and of course has the team have the old HUGO BOSS. I mean, Sci-Fi, your reaction to Alex's message there, it's heartbreaking.
Hi Andy, yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, just listen to that. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Like, I really feel for the guy right now. It must be so tough, and you know, having to call in and tell his team that it's all over must have been, you know, really quite difficult. He's worked, you know, for 4 years on this pretty tirelessly, really, and with one goal. And it's not like he can, you know, finish the race and have a go next year. It's another 4-year wait to have a shot at the title. And you know, he sailed fantastically. He did a great job down the Atlantic. He showed his strength of being able to push and take risks by you know, cutting quite close to that storm. And I think he sort of surpassed everybody's expectations and what you can be fixed on board when he repaired his boat. I mean, I think everyone from the outside, and certainly everyone I've spoken to who saw the extent of the damage in his boat that he repaired was you know, pretty breathtaking by the work he did. So to be to eventually be knocked out the race by a broken rudder, which probably is the cause of hitting something purely through bad luck, is yeah, just heartbreaking. And I really feel for the guy right now. So yeah, no, tough moment for him.
Especially when he'd done all that work, and we all expected him to get back into the race, and that damage knocking him out. So we'll keep up to date with Alex as he heads into Cape Town. But let's look at the standings just now. As I say, Charlie Dallin leading towards the Cape of Good Hope just now. He is 242 miles ahead of Thomas Riong, who's in second. Kevin Escoffier back up to third. He's still being chased by the ever-present Jean Le Cam in fourth. Jean Le Cam is only about 4 or 5 miles behind on the 2007 boat. Yannick Bestaven in fifth. Louis Burton in sixth. They're all extremely close together in this packet of boats. Sebastian Simon in seventh, Boris Herrmann in eighth, Damien Sagan, well, still going fantastically well on an older non-foiling boat in ninth, and Giancarlo Padotti in 10th. We see Sam Davis has dropped down to 12th. She's just keeping it steady, I think was Sam's message. She wasn't finding the pace that she'd hoped for, but she is doing 18.1 knots in the speed gun, up to 30 minutes before the Classements, before the position report. Isabelle Josh is chasing her quite hard though, and is now only 40 miles behind Sam, so that's going to be an interesting match. Alex Thompson, as he said, is still on the Classements and will stay there until he retires in Cape Town. Then looking down for our internationals, Alan Rurer, well, he's had his problems over the weekend with his keel hydraulics. We spoke with him and we'll have him in the programme later on, but he's being pursued quite hard by Stéphane Le Deraison, who's now about 300 miles behind. A little bit concerned was Alan that Stéphane Le Deraison may catch him. Then down the table a little bit, Didac Costa in 23rd, going well. Pip Hare 24th. Then Ari Husela and Miranda Meron still fairly close together. Miranda 28th, Ari Husela 29th, and our Japanese skipper Kojiro Shiraishi on DMG Morai Global. He's going well now. He's into good breeze and he's doing 15.7 knots in 31st. And starting to make the boat go well. Let's go to Simon Fisher then. Sci-Fi, your thoughts on the race as a whole? It's become a real focal point this winter for the whole sailing community, hasn't it?
No, it's been absolutely fascinating, and yeah, I've always followed the Vendée Globe when it's been on, but I think following it with a much greater sense of detail this time around, and it's been a really exciting race to follow. Obviously, with crude racing moving into the IMOCA fleet as a team with the 11th hour racing, we're following it very, very closely as well. And be fair to say we're chatting daily with the team about what's going on and watching all the runners and riders. So no, it's been a great race, very, very tactical race. But yeah, we've seen our fair share of heartbreak and upsets, and I think now with a month ahead in the Southern Ocean, it's only going to continue to be really interesting.
Give us your insight into the weather just now for Charlie Dallin, and you know, they're on this low pressure system. He's just in front of it. The boats behind are in the best of it. What's your take on the next few days?
Yeah, it looks like there's only the leading guys are going to see quite a bit of breeze in the next few days. I was just looking at the forecast earlier today, and it looks like that they're in 20 to 25 now, but they'll probably be into high 20s, low 30s in the next day or so. Charlie Dallin's also dealing with the bottom of the Agulhas current, which will present some issues as well with favourable current, but also more wind and more sea state, which is generally, and also more squally when you're in warm water currents. So that also makes things a little bit trickier. There's also the prospect of the ice gate for some of the guys towards the south, like Louis Burton and Bureau Valley. So luckily the wind is backing slightly and coming more around to the south, so that they should get headed down, which should give them more time on starboard before they have to jibe for the ice gate. But yeah, some proper Southern Ocean conditions coming, and plenty to think about. And I think in a few days' time we're going to have a decent low pressure with a strong front coming through. So yeah, some tough sailing ahead in the next few days.
And I mean, this group in particular, we have 6-7 boats who are very close together, racing hard. How will they modulate their pace? How will they pace themselves against each other versus staying prudent? I mean, we speak with Boris Herrmann. He's talking about that later on in the programme.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. It's interesting, and now I've been following the pace of the boats very closely, and it's interesting to see. It would be interesting to see how these guys kind of find their rhythm in the Southern Ocean. It's fair to say there's a lot of speed potential in these boats. I think you could easily see them averaging up into the sort of mid 20s, but it's a speed that's not really sustainable. So it's going to be tough for the guys in the pack to know how much to push and when to push. versus finding a pace that's kind of sustainable and they can just sort of plod along and maintain that pace and not break their boat. I think it'd be interesting tactically to see when people try and use the speed versus not. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch because certainly they can go faster if they want to, but it presents its own problems. It can get quite difficult. Even just living on board is quite difficult when you're going flat out on these things. So yeah, just these guys finding their rhythm and a decent pace and finding a sail set that works when you're sailing in 25, but you're getting schools of 35 can be quite tricky. So yeah, getting the right pace for these guys is crucially important in this next stage of the race.
So, Sci-Fi, your expertise in the Gulhas current, then how does Charlie Dallin route through that?
Yeah, so the Agudas current is the warm water current that comes down the east coast of Africa and then recurves. And yeah, right now Charlie's sort of just clipping the westerly edge of it. And as I sort of mentioned before, with this warm water current, it also because it's cold air coming over warm water, that generally sort of makes the wind a little bit more volatile. It mixes it down a bit, so you can expect to see a bit more wind, also a bit more sea state, and potentially a bit more squally. And squally conditions and more sea state are two things that are not that conducive to sailing and foiling a IMOCA boat. So I think whilst there is the option of maybe 2, maybe even 3 knots of favourable current, I suspect he'll be edging on the edge of safety really and trying to stay out the worst of it, but maybe trying to get a little bit of a push at the same time too. Good,
lovely, Sci-Fi. I'll come back to you in just one second. Let's look at our 3D animation, our fly through the fleet as of this morning. Well, first of all, looking at the back of the fleet, we can see Jeremy Bayou crossing or across the equator. He's now into more favourable breezes. He was quite headed as he came across. Then, as I say, further down the fleet, Kojiro Shirayashi, he's doing 17 knots actually, and he's just getting up to pass Sebastian Destremo. 500 miles in front of Fabrice Amadeo is profiting from a good day yesterday, passing Alexia Barry, Miranda Merin and Ari Husela. And in front of him, there's 200 miles in front, there's a group battling for 20th place. Meantime, Occitane en Provence is going quite well down in the south towards the Brazilian coast and is well placed to get to the stronger wind. 400 miles in front of him, Stéphane Le de Raison is pretty much out on his own, but trying to catch Alan Rura, who's also in the group with Clarice Kremer. Clarice Kremer is quite decent just now. She's just past the island of Gough, or Gough Island. And you can also see Alex Thompson, who is just passing the depression and heading in towards Cape Town. He's got quite reasonable conditions. And then Isabelle Josh chasing Sam Davis is in the middle of the group, followed by Damien Seguin. And in the north, we can see we can see the group just behind Charlie Dallin. And there's Charlie Dallin, who is just, as I say, passing the Cape of Good Hope. Probably this evening, you say about 160 miles to go. So Simon Fisher, you say you have the former HUGO BOSS. What have you done to improve its performance?
Well, so obviously we're using that boat as our training boat for the ocean race, and yeah, it's had some sort of steady modifications over the last year or so. But I guess the main one is we've been experimenting with foils. So the boat's had new foil cases fitted, which are much more similar to the latest generation, like you see on in Pivia or Linked Out. And yeah, we've tested some different foils in the boat, and yeah, it's fair to say we're learning all the time. And you know, we're learning with the foils. We're obviously doing sail development as well, and then a big part of sailing these boats crewed is just learning how you're going to live aboard as well. So there's the big things like the foils you see on the outside, which is a fairly big ticket item, but just learning to live aboard these things has presented its own challenges and has had its own sort of path of development.
And so what have you learned about the foils that you can tell us?
Yeah, well, I would have to try not to give all my secrets away or our secrets as a team, but no, it's a tremendously interesting challenge, and it's fair to say that, you know, when you can see in the Vendée fleet the wide variety of different foils and shapes and sizes that you know, as a technology, we're still painting with very broad strokes. So yeah, we've been testing different types of foils, and what we're really we're looking which areas we can be fast, what the trade-offs are, how usable they are. I mean, we obviously don't have the benefit of like a full-time flight controller like they do in the America's Cup. So you can build a foil that's very fast, but if it needs constantly trimming, it might not be practical. So every day, I think it's fair to say we're learning about what we do and how we develop to get to a foil which gives the performance we want, but is not too demanding in terms of trimming it or adjusting it. So yeah, it's a fascinating prospect, and yeah, it's also quite daunting as well because these foils they're very big, they're very expensive, they take a long time to make. So the decisions that we make now really do colour our potential performance in the race, which is years down the track. So it's certainly a massive focus of the team right now.
And of course, the Ocean Race course is very different to the Vendée Globe course, so the different foils, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. The Vendée Globe course is predominantly downwind, VMG downwind, and I think you'll see the majority of the Vendée boats have optimised for that. With the Ocean Race, we have a greater proportion of upwind and reaching sailing, and then we also do a lot more transitions. Just the fact that we race in stages and stopovers, we have a lot more transitional conditions and a lot more sort of close racing close to land. So it does slightly change your sort of target or your optimum sort of foil and the conditions. So yeah, I think everything in sailing is always a trade-off. So we have to really pick carefully what's going to be our optimum foil.
And in terms of life on board, it must be hard with 5 or 6 in an IMOCA.
Yeah, I mean these boats have evolved primarily as single-handed boats, so they're very much optimized for that. But you know, we sort of have a fairly broad brush to paint with, and we're looking to design a boat for crude racing. But the performance parameters and the things that make these boats fast and fast within the IMOCA rule don't give you much space for making a nice big comfy boat for lots of people. So it's fair to say we're all crammed in there like sardines most of the time. And the other thing is you know, they're quite uncomfortable.
Oh,
there's no hiding the fact that these boats are very uncomfortable to sail on, and when we're sailing crude, there's someone on deck trying to get the best performance out of the boat. So sleeping could be a challenge, eating's a challenge, sometimes moving around is a challenge, going to the toilet is a challenge. So it's certainly a lot to get our head around, and just, you know, obviously looking after the boat around a race course is one thing, but it's also a decent challenge looking after the people and finding a way we can comfortably live aboard and yeah, all be back at the dock in one piece after a few weeks racing.
And how do you run your watches then with in a crude situation? Then you have 2 on deck or 3 on deck, or?
Yeah, I mean, with the boat we got now, it's obviously Alex's old boat from the last race, which really is kind of optimized for one person. So it gets pretty crowded when we're all on deck. But generally, we'll sail with 2 people on deck and rotate through the crew. And yeah, I mean, in the Ocean Race, typically we sail 4 hours on, 4 hours off. But it's a slightly different challenge now. So we're actually looking at different ways that we can organise the watch system and just try and find an optimum and yeah, find new ways forward that suit these kind of boats.
Where are the performance differences then between crude racing or in crude format and with these modern autopilots that we have with the artificial intelligence? They must be much closer now, surely.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly true that the sort of technology is converging, and it's, you know, it's fascinating looking at these boats and the technology that the guys are using in the short-handed racing in a crude context. The autopilot is an interesting one because people might assume that a person's always going to be faster driving, but we're generally on these boats, we're covered up. We don't have much view of the outside world. You might not be able to see the horizon or whatever. So, you know, standing at a wheel and getting belted with the waves is not the fastest way to sail. It's actually much better to be sort of covered up, and in that context, sometimes the autopilot can do a better job, and you're better off trimming the boat or focusing on something else just to make sure the boat's going fast. So I think really, yeah, in a crude context, and even when we are crude, we're only sailing with 2 people on deck. It's not that different from sailing single-handed. So we're certainly trying to cherry pick the best of both worlds, and yeah, you use good ideas from both sides of this kind of racing.
Indeed, now someone whose pilot's clearly working well just now and very uncomfortable inside. This is Boris Herrmann today with his Christmas jumper on. How are you today, Boris?
I'm good, thank you. I cannot move very fast in the sea state, but apart from that, everything is good here.
And you have your special Christmas jumper on.
Exactly, yeah. It's 8 degrees in here now at the moment.
And you're happy to be back in the south?
I was looking forward to it, but now as I'm here, I really hate the sea state. It's so confused. It's like boiling sea, and the boat is bouncing around, and it's not very satisfying at the moment. I hope the sea will elongate itself a little bit over the next day, so just be different. I don't know. I've never seen something like this. It looks really like boiling chaos. For no reason. There's not that much wind.
How much wind do you have just now? And what's your sail plan at the moment? What sails do you have?
I have a jib top and 2 reefs and an average of 22 knots of wind. It was sometimes gusting 26 or so in the night. Yesterday I saw 30. And right now it's a little lull kind of thing, and I expect it to go up in a little bit again. So I'm hesitant to take out the reef. Maybe I take out a reef and then I'm 1 reef jib top.
And are the forecasts that you're using, the models, are they quite accurate now compared to St. Helena?
Yes, very accurate, yes. And also they are agreeing, at least for the kind of next 48 hours or so, pretty much. So, and in that regard, it's kind of easier these days here. There's not, well, we are all heading the same way in this entire group here. So you have one thing less to worry about. You know that you're generally in the right phase. You just now need to find the right speed, the right rhythm. I checked the boat this morning if there was anything wrong. So, of course, making sure that the boat doesn't have any problems. I found a little problem with my J2, but I can fix that later quite easily.
So Boris Herrmann then, just keeping a fairly conservative pace, as he said, just trying to balance the power against the boats round about him. But he is going well and just keeping things safe. Sci-Fi then, tell us, with your group then, obviously everybody's interested and fascinated by the Vendée Globe. Can you see anyone from your group in particular taking up the challenge in 2024 or beyond?
That's a good question. I think based on the chat on board that we've had, there's probably not too many takers for single-handed sailing. It's no, I mean, sailing these boats with 4 or 5 people is really quite full on, and I think it's really given everyone a newfound respect for what these guys out there doing the Vendée Globe are doing. It's really impressive. Certainly, I'm more than happy to watch the Vendée Globe from the comfort at home. I think 200 racing is something that certainly some people in the team will consider, and would maybe look at. And I mean, Charlie and Pascal did a great job last TJV, but I don't think there's too many people sticking their hand up for the Vendée Globe. But you never know. So I guess you have to watch this space.
For sure, you're based out of, or the team's based out of Newport, and there's much more interest in foils in the IMOCA class in America now. Do you think there's a possibility that there'll be somebody come forward for the next race? I mean, traditionally it seems to have been the adventurers who have come from your side or that side of the pond.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think with you know, the IMOCA class getting taken up by crude racing, I think it is putting this kind of sailing more on the map and foiling. Everyone was obviously very keen to get into foiling. The America's Cup is foiling, the Vendée Globe is foiling. You know, the old teams, the Jules Verne boats that are going around now are foiling. So and you look at the performance of these boats, and there's potential for for like a 100-footer performance, boats like Comanche could maybe get beaten in the right conditions by one of these sort of 60-footers. And so it's going to be really fascinating to see where the technology goes moving forward. I mean, I think Guillaume, when he spoke to you on Saturday, allured to what might happen when these boats eventually get elevators on the rudders and stuff. I think that the performance profile is pretty impressive. So I think in mainstream sailing, we might see more of these kind of boats. And I think short-handed sailing all over the world is really a part of the sport that's growing at the moment. Seeing a lot more double-handed sailing with it coming to the Olympics. And I think this whole year of coronavirus has actually sort of introduced short-handed sailing to more people as well through social distancing. So yeah, who knows what happens to the future, but I think it's quite exciting for short-handed sailing.
This is Sci-Fi. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you'll join us again during the course of the race. Our regards to everyone in Barcelona. Meantime, Isabel Josch is going well. It's her first time in the Southern Ocean. And as I said, she's catching up with Sam Davis, and this is Isa today.
As you see, right, I have a pretty rough weather, like around 30 knots of big seas. The boat is not very comfortable in these conditions. And the weather is being colder and colder every 40s south. And now I can say looked forward to, and I also scared about it. And now I understand why. And I must say I'm also scared about sailing 40 days in these conditions. But pretty happy that my boat is going fast and that I am approaching to the boats that were far away in front of me a few days ago. So I'm in the match and very happy about it.
So that's Isabel Josch, as she said, getting into the match. Remember, she had these problems early on in the race and also with her push bit, which she's managed to make a repair. Meantime, Ari Husela, steady as ever, and he's explaining his route round the South Atlantic High in this video.
Hi all, welcome aboard Stark IMOCA on Vendée Globe. It's now the 30th of November, and if someone wonders why we are going so long route, why don't we cut the corner straight towards the tip of South Africa, but here you can see the answer. There is quite a big high pressure no wind area between us and South Africa, so we have to go quite a long way down to south and very close to the ice exclusion zone, which we are not allowed to go in because there might be still some risk of icebergs. It's this yellow area, and then we can just turn towards east, towards Africa. So that's why we are making this route so long, to avoid this light wind and stucking there. Anyway, it's a Monday and the best day of the week, so have a nice week all, and stay tuned. Ciao.
So that's Ari Husela. Then he's not in any big hurry to get round the world. This is a 20-year dream for him. He's a Finnish airline pilot, and he's going well. Anyway, join us tomorrow for our Vendée Globe Live at 12:30 in UTC, 13:30. And as ever, if you have any questions, do post them on Facebook, on Instagram, or indeed on Twitter. Let's see you tomorrow.